there has been an absolute explosion in the number of children who are questioning their gender identity. So there are around 8,000 now on the waiting list for the Tavistock Gender Identity Clinic, which is being wound down. And that compares to, a few hundred a decade ago. So a massive explosion, and many of them are girls. So I think this is something that has to be tackled, and it is something now that the Department for Education has put some draft guidance out, some guidance which is out for consultation, if that guidance is adopted, it would encourage schools to take rather a different approach than the approach that many of them have taken up to now.
What I'm trying to remember, because I remember the headlines from the draft guidelines, but what would the guidelines say, or what would the government say should happen in terms of people coming into the school, like those YouTubers?
Yeah, well, that is something I've heard from schools, from parents who are worried about their children who are saying that they want to transition at school. And that would mean that for instance, a child who'd been born a girl would be saying to their parents, well, I want to be called by a boy's name. I want the school to use male pronouns. I want to wear a boy's uniform. I want to play sport with the boys. I want to use the boys' changing room, all that kind of thing. And sometimes parents will say that they feel that their child has been actually encouraged down this path by staff at schools. They will say that YouTubers have come in, or activists have come in and given talks to children, and sometimes they try and link that back to what their child is now saying. There are certainly many, many YouTubers out there, including in America, who are posting videos about how to transition on YouTube, and they have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. This new guidance does say that schools must consider whether a child has been influenced either by their peers, by other children around them encouraging them to transition, or by social media. So it's asking schools to take a much more thoughtful approach than many of them have taken to this phenomenon that they are having to grapple with. This new guidance from the Department for Education, if it is adopted, would say, first of all, schools have to tell parents they can't, transition a child without parents' consent, except in very, very exceptional circumstances. They have to, in primary schools especially, take an incredibly cautious approach before they say to children, we will call you by a different name, we will change your pronouns, we will encourage you down this path. We don't have figures for how many children, if you leave them alone and you take this watchful waiting approach, you don't encourage them in this belief, this feeling that they are of the opposite sex. We don't know how that affects them, but some experts are now saying that if you do that, if you take that watchful waiting approach, you wait, you explore all the feelings that a child might have, and some of these children are autistic or they have ADHD. You explore everything that might be causing this child's gender identity issues, then those children are more likely to, after a period of time, move away from those feelings of gender dysphoria. What has been happening has been that children have been referred to gender identity clinics. Children, even as young as 10 or 11 have been put on puberty blocking drugs. And then at the age of 18, teenagers can be transferred to an adult clinic where you can then have surgery to change your bodies, mastectomy, for instance, or genital surgery. And you can have cross-sex hormones, very powerful hormones, which also change your body in one direction or another.
Yes.
And this is what some parents that I have talked to over several years now are very, very alarmed about.
Sian, thank you very much for that. That is very comprehensive. That's Sian Griffiths, who's the Sunday Times' education editor.